I was intrigued with Indian culture because anyone I met from India, they were quite quiet, soft, mild mannered.
People are more going towards loving God instead of fearing God.
There's a lot of faith groups that actually highlight God in a particular profile. You may go to where it's hot, as the Saints say, where there's flames in Naraka, Loka.
When we are doing our dharma, so do you think by default we are accommodating say dharmas as well?
If you stand for piety and righteousness, punya, then you'll be rewarded.
Talking of karma, is that always like a bad karma? Or we are also talking about the good karmas as well?
Yes, the way it works, for every action that you execute or exert, there will be an equal reaction.
Is there really afterlife?
Oh, yes.
And our karma will be dictating our afterlife. Who is that?
Brahmasmi.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to Avilash podcast. Today's episode is going to be all about Krishna and the stories of a walking monk, or we can say Bhakti Marg Swami. A Western man who decided to be a monk in his life and start spreading a word of Krishna by walk. Walking monk has already written a very beautiful book called as The Saffron Path, which encapsulate all his life stories when he was on a walk. He has already walked many countries, including whole Canada 4 times. So let's jump into a special podcast with The Walking Monk. And before we start, if you're new to our channel, make sure you like this video and subscribe Avilash podcast, because this is going to be a very beautiful walking journey for you guys. So let's jump into the episode and enjoy. Bhakti Marg Swami, welcome to the Avilash podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Love to have you. Please tell me how you're doing.
I'm doing good. I'm feeling great. As long as I get a little exercise in and I have some prasadam to eat, sacred food offered to Krishna. And as long as I have good company, my friends around me, and something to do in bhakti.
Indeed. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to give you a command a little bit so that you can tell us about yourself as a Bhakti Marg Swami, how your journey started, and what are your goals right now?
Okay. Well, how did it all start? I was born in Canada, in Chatham, Ontario, which is towards Windsor Way. Super flat land, farmland. So I was raised on a farm, small farm. And I used to do chores in the morning. My dad would wake me up at 5:30 in the morning and have me happily milk our family cow. So I grew up in a small town. First of all, it began in a one-room red brick schoolhouse. One room, 8 grades, 30 kids, 1 teacher. I don't know how she did it. So anyways, we're talking about the 50s. I'm 71, I can't say that. And early in 60s, which was a unique time, in many ways, kind of revolutionary time. This is post-war, post-Second World War. Yeah, so, just like when India was going through its partition, and I had its change. In the western part of the world, people want for changes. Now, after the war, there was new hope. People just want to get their lives together. And it was a unique time for about 20 years, the golden time. Your dad would have a beautiful car, one of those incredibly long cars with the wings, a Ford or a Dodge or something like that. And they were built like tanks, And we'd have a house you could pay off the mortgage maybe in 10 years. And you had your mom, she stayed at home. I'm just painting the picture. She said, I'm going to look after the family. This is North America, middle class lifestyle. So when you came back from school, she was there. And then you would eat together, supper together, mom and dad, and the offspring. Probably the average family was 3 or 4 children at that time, and there was at least a dog on the cat. That's doing a cat. Yeah. And life was pretty easy. You'd go to the beach in the summer because we're near the Great Lakes. It was free. And you do sports, and there was school. Facilities were wonderful. And dad worked, and he brought all the bread and butter to the table. Mom looked after all of us. Well, that's the day it was. So then the late 60s comes along, and whatever happened in the States kind of affected Canada as well in terms of mindset. The Vietnam War came, and people found quite senses why our young men had to be drafted. This is another thing, and it was a real challenge for kids. We already went through a war, Second World War, and you'll never stop wars. But now there's another war, a Vietnam War, and it didn't make much sense to the young people at the time. There was a counterculture, and a lot of young folks at that time, now we're talking about 65, 1962 and beyond, the whole counterculture started, the hippie movement arose, and you had to be a little bit against the status quo. That's the way it was. And India played a big part in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, India played a big part in it because marijuana was coming from, the idea came from the yogis in India. So people started to smoke dope. And apart from cigarettes.
Almost a month.
Yeah, exactly. It came from India. India had that kind of profile. And a lot of the clothes started to look like Indian clothes. And most guys looked like yogis with beards and stuff. And Indian sandals you buy, neighbor color. And you would also, for your furniture, you might buy a round table made carved out of wood with 3 legs instead of 4, carved in India.
Okay.
So at that time, there were a lot of teachers coming around, and one of them was A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and he's my teacher. He's the one who started ISKON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, popularly known as the Hari Krishna movement. And a lot of people say Hari Rama, Hari Krishna. Okay? But it's actually Hari Krishna, Hari Rama. And we were known at that time for chanting on the streets in the Western countries. And at that time, there were just a few immigrants coming from India. And I remember very distinctly, anybody who came from India, they were a little shy, timid. There was just a small stream of them coming in. And there was there was intimidation, I would say, not imposed by any outsiders so much, but by themselves. And a little bit of being self-conscious. And India was just coming out of like hundreds of years of oppression on one level or another, by the Mughal community and by the British community. You know, Islam and Christianity had came in and just kind of wanted to change the situation. You know? And meanwhile, people in the West didn't know the history very well. And but India was just coming out of the closet, so to speak, in meaning that it was probably and had a reputation. Even our guru says it in formal lectures. He says, all over the world, India is known as the begging nation. The nation at that time, I'm talking about the 60s, where people are starving to death, and the cows are eating all of the crops. all the food because cows are sacred. And there was an image of, some people being able to lie down in a bed of nails, and also people being snake charmers. So that was the image of India at that time. Of course, now it's changed. India exports. It doesn't just import. It's a very industrial city, and it's become a world power. I was intrigued with Indian culture because anyone I met from India, they were quite quiet, soft, mild mannered, and that was kind of unique to me. And this is why a lot of Western young boys and girls, they were very intrigued with the stereotypical yogi from India, because he had certain cool, graceful mannerisms. Okay, and of course, Prabhupada, our guru, the Hari Krishna founder, he had a lot of those qualities. He had that profile. Because of his age, he was in his 70s at that time. He had the wisdom, he had the maturity, full of experience. And he came on a boat from India, and that made its way through the Atlantic and ended up in New York City, where he started his mission in 1965. So I joined in 73. So there was a wave or two of young people joining and becoming his shishas or students. And what were we learning, or what was he teaching? He was helping us to understand what is yoga, which means to link up with God, with the absolute universe, whatever term we want to use. And then bhakti means devotion, loving God. And I'm not fearing that, but loving God. It's kind of a new concept when you're talking about religion, spirituality. So a lot of people are interested. They like the idea of mantra meditation, kirtan, studying the ancient books of wisdom, such as the Bhagavad Gita, and rising early in the morning and fasting on special days. So it was interesting because a whole crop of young people were experimenting with liberalism and do as you feel. If it feels good, do it. Now, some of them were shifting and figuring out, well, that doesn't seem to be a good paradigm. So why don't we try something else? Let's hear from the Swami. Let's have some discipline and balance in our lives. And of course, some of those people stuck to it, and some of the takers didn't stay on as takers. But it became a phenomenon, the Hare Krishna movement. People joining Indian swamis to think camps, you can say.
So you said one interesting thing which got my attention, that is the cultural shift regarding the people are more going towards loving God instead of fearing God. So when you say that, what do you mean by that?
Well, there's a lot of faith groups that actually highlight God in a particular profile as God who's the great power out there and to be feared. Follow the laws, follow the book, whether it be the Bible or the Old Testament for the Jewish folks, and there's Islam and something to it. So the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, and so on like that, following the law. And there was a tendency to fear God. If you didn't measure up, then you will maybe not have a second chance. You may go to where it's hot, as the Saints say, where there's flames. In Naraka, Loka, we're in hell. And but on the other hand, if you were a good, obedient kind of person, you go there. But what's different now in our particular tradition, because of the process of transmigration of the soul, reincarnation, if you cannot follow your Dharma completely, or your rules, your obligations, up to the highest mark, well, you'll get a chance in the next life to fulfill. And in this way, God shows compassion. You can't make the grade? Okay, we'll give you another chance.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's quite different from what you might hear, say, like from some traditions. Let's say, got to make the grade, or it's quite linear. And Krishna's stating in his book, Bhagavad Gita, that he says, submit to me, surrender to me. And if you do so, I will remove all the karma. I'll take all the sinful reactions from you, from your soul, and I will give you moksha. I'll give you salvation. And so then you don't have to worry. Mashucha, that's in Sanskrit, Mashucha. So that's the final lesson from the Gita. And to sum it up, I'll just attach another verse. This is in chapter 18, where Krishna says, love me, be more devotee, and give your homage. And if you do so, I will Lord, you will be together. More or less, Krishna's message is, love me as I love you. So the approach is more of a loving kind, as opposed to a fearing kind. But I would say like this, both emotions work, because if we just hear about bhakti, love, and just take it easy, relax, you can be very lackadaisical about your spiritual approach. But then there's also a need to hear that if you don't measure up, there will be other destinations that are not so comfortable. And yeah, like better a little bit. So we need to hear a little bit of both. It's like loving parents. They'll feed you, they'll clothe you, give you shelter, see that you have entertainment, see that you have education, all those things. But once in a while you feel like, because you're a kid, your energy's out of control. So the parents have to step in and say, you stop that, or there will be some kind of curfew, or I won't let you look at the computer, or some kind of stipulations will be laid out. So both, the combination of both is really sweet. And makes for a molding and shaping a good human being.
I have a follow-up to these questions. Before I go into the follow-ups, I just want to ask you, as a walking monk, right? So what are your key destination when your name defines you as a walking monk? So what you do as a monk?
Well, I decided to become a full-fledged monk back in 73. That meant I made a change. I changed my clothes. I wore a dhoti and kurta. And the ladies enjoy us, as women as well. They'll wear a sari, traditional female garment. Right. So once I joined, I started to study a lot, the Bhagavad Gita and other similar texts of what we call the Vedas. And I was doing a lot of regular, simple chores in the temple, doing laundry, cleaning, also some kind of proselytization, going to public on the streets, meeting people, encouraging them into the books and the magazines that we were producing. And it was all that. I also spent a lot of time in the kitchen over the years. So I learned how to make roti and chapati and the sabjis and parathas and pizza also. And I started delivering classes after some time. You get like a first diksha, a second diksha, and the shoes. And then you get classes, lessons in the practice of bhakti yoga. And I was also going to schools, telling people about the essence of Hinduism, or in what we call bhakti, devotion, and all those things. And I had a chance also to travel to India. But I came to a particular point where I have to make a little paradigm shift and let me do a long walk across Canada and to reignite a walking culture as best as I could. And do what yogis do. Yogis and sadhus, they travel. This is an old practice. There were no roads before. There were no planes. There were no automobiles and buses and trains and airplanes. You just walk. And you walk and you're in good shape and you have a chance to meet people. You become neighborly. Sometimes you get lost, and then you depend on the person to help you get back on track. All that kind of natural, organic stuff is what I experienced on a cruise walk across Canada in 1996 from the West Coast to the East Coast.
I'm born in 96, and
Oh, really?
yeah.
Really?
Okay,
It was
so
a good year, though.
really,
I think so. Well, for me, it was.
I mean, I was very young to say that.
It was a good year just because I had a chance to walk.
Maybe that is the reason that you look still so young. You're so fit. To me, you does not look that 71.
I don't know, but that's what I am.
Okay.
I got my classmate regardless.
I don't think we need that. Your world is enough for us. Okay. So when it comes to monk, you already established, so as a monk, how you done a paradise shift into your bhakti marg, right? And when it comes to monk, if you have to explain who monk are to a 10-year-old kid, so how will you explain that?
Why don't we just say a monk is a person who has volunteered to come forward and lead a very simple life and marry himself to the mission of God or to the mission of the universe. So that might be way above their heads because you don't see it on Instagram. But I mean, it's a way of life that's encouraging simplicity. And it also involves community service, reaching out to people, encouraging a simple way of being. Maybe you've heard the phrase, less is more. So if you have less, you actually feel more free, liberated. I think everyone knows what it means to be bogged down with things. Like people get excited, we're going to the mall. But what is in the mall? Things. And so you stuff your apartment with things, and everything that you purchase has its luster, and then it gets dull. And then I have to replace my thing that I'm out of with another thing. Before you know, you have an apartment of things, of stuff. And you're surrounded by so much stuff that you have to rent a storage unit.
Everything
We sell it there. So the idea of being a monk and living the life in a monastery or ashram is to dedicate yourself to Krishna in that circumstance, and do something for the people. Because we, like in Krishna consciousness, it's an education movement. We're here to teach about the science of bhakti. And while we run temples and we have more deities of Krishna, we facilitate that, we take care of them. So people will come for darshan of the deities, and that's okay. But what's really more important is the educational factor, the gyan, the wisdom. And wisdom is something that helps an individual conquer over such, let's say, lower natures like anger and lust and greed. Kam, krodh, lobh, they lead you to dark places. So when you apply the gyan, the wisdom of the Gita, it helps you to overcome the darknesses and you can stay in the light and be right.
You mentioned about the ISKCON as an institution, as a temple. So I just want to highlight, according to you, what are the main principles ISKCON established based on, and what are their key themes?
Well, the principles of ISKCON are, as I mentioned, like we have 7 purposes, and it has a lot to do with informing people about life and challenging the issue of the imbalanced ways in which we live. Our lives are imbalanced. The focus is on sense gratification. The focus is on what you can do to stimulate your body, what you can excite your body. So to do that, you have to work hard during the week. And on the weekend, you might have a chance. Right? And so, all that's okay, that's fine. But why don't we cultivate our spiritual side? Because, we all know about our physical self. But what do we know about our internal self, our real identity? Like in the Vedas, it says, Aham Brahmasmi. That means I am spirit. I'm not the body. It doesn't mean you deny the body. This, basically, the body is a tool, a vehicle that can help you to advance spiritually. But it's not a be-all and end-all. The body is like a vehicle that will get you from one place to another. But as we know, all vehicles, they have a beginning and end. So do these bodies. But then what happens after that? Where do we go? So we're saying, let's cultivate the spiritual side, put some attention to the Atma, or to the soul, and not just all towards the body. We understand that the world is made up of 2 energies, Prakriti, material energy, which is Bhumir, Apano, Vayu, that is earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego. And so that's one reality. That's a material reality. But the spiritual reality is something much deeper. It's more subtle. It's permanent. It's not temporary like the physicality of the world. So what I was saying to journalists and reporters along the way when I was walking, that I'm here to just encourage people to get more to the spiritual side of life, regardless of what is your denomination. You can be Buddhist, you can be Christian, you can be Islam. It doesn't matter. Cultivate your spirituality. Cultivate the love for God. And it's better to get away from the designations, like the designations or denominations. Institution can help you, but that may also not be effective in itself. Where we want to go with all of this is that I am a servant of the absolute. I'm a servant of the supreme. And my soul doesn't have a label on it necessarily. Christian, Jew, Buddhist, Muslim, this, that. It doesn't have its rubber stamp. The soul is a soul. But if you have an institution and you follow a religion, if you will, that helps you to get to that point of higher consciousness, then you're in it. You can be in good shape.
You said very beautiful thing, Brad. One of the principles is to tell people to go inclined towards the education of the world. So my question to you then, according to you, what is the reason that most of the people who are inclining towards the name of the Krishna, and even they are coming from whatever religion or whatever, from whatever place or whatever religion they are coming from? What is the reason? What is the magic behind so that people are more inclining towards the name of Krishna?
Well, I think some of the attractions are, at least for me, it was the beautiful camaraderie that was there. There was a nice family feel. People rising early, showering, getting together, going to the mandir. Most of us were living in the ashram, in a mandir, in a house that was rented. We started with humble means. And then the attraction was that camaraderie, that friendship, that family feel. And the food was great, and it was revolutionary to be a vegetarian or vegan in the early days. Still is to some degree. It's a daring and it's a bold step to go for that kind of like dietary reality. What else? We stand for peace, non-violence, but if there's a need to protect, defend oneself, then, like in the case of Arjuna, Krishna's prime student, then that would be also endorsed. I mean, Krishna, if we go back to the story of the Mahabharata, he wanted the great divine Yudhishthira to rule the world because he stood for righteousness. And for that, Yudhishthira and company, brothers and Pandavas, they had to stand for righteousness. They actually had to defend themselves and take up weapons. Otherwise, that was an evil plan. The Kauravas were trying to come in and affect the world in a negative way, in a materialistic way. So the challenge is on, really. And now we do live in a very self-centered kind of world. So it makes a lot of sense to, especially for the liberation of the soul, to work very hard at establishing Dharma. And what is Dharma? Means old values, obligations, responsibility. Let's say, add up to, let's say, if you are, let's say, even you're bringing a child into the world, a lot of people are not very responsible about it, and they'll walk away. And that's one of the main storylines in this Broadway production, Hair, Hair, in the 60s, that defined the 60s. So it's a matter of getting responsible again and paying homage to the universe, to the world, to the globe, to the practicing bhakti, which, and you want to boil it down to simple terms. Chapter 9 from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna saying, with the love offered me a simple leaf, flower, food, or water, and I will accept it. So God is simply saying, show me your love by just with intent. Of course, you might go to a cedar tree, plucking a little bit of like a branch. God, please accept my offering here. Of course, he's already accepted it, it's already there. But you're deliberately making the effort to say, well, I'm taking the extra few feet. I'm taking a little extra length to be conscious of you, my Lord, and I want to offer this to you now, because I can do it. So it's a matter of seeing that everything in this world is connected with the Absolute, with God. And that God isn't just in a mandir. God isn't just in a mosque or any church. God is everywhere, and especially in the elements. So what I would say to people, open the window, let God come in, let the air come in, let the sun shine in, and see God through all the elements.
Okay, as talking about God, right? You mentioned we are talking about Krishna as well. Who is Krishna?
Krishna is the source of the cosmos, source of the material and spiritual worlds. Aham sarvasya prabhavo bhatastarvam prabhartati. That's I'm quoting from chapter 10. So all that is matter and all that is spirit, that is the source, and that source is Krishna. So like when people say, it's from the Star Wars series, may the force be with you. What about may the souls be with you? the source of the force, and the source is God. But we tend to deny that. We just, I see the physical world and I just want to give it a piece of it. I want to enjoy it. Why don't you, oh, Mr. Enthusiast, why don't you just consider that everything comes from somewhere? And maybe we can appreciate, give praise to, offer thanks to where it all came from. And that's what bhakti is. It's like saying, thank you. Thank you for giving me what I have. Thank you for giving me what I need. And thank you for everything.
Interestingly, this is not what we say nowadays. We say, hey, God, please give this to me.
Right. And there's heavy demands, give me. And maybe there's an attitude out there from above that say, well, why don't you take care of what I already gave you? I'll give you more. Just look at what you've got already.
So, talking about Krishna and talking about Bhagavad Gita, as you said, the prime student for Krishna was Arjuna. During Mahabharata, or we gives his teacher that's during the war. And following to that, my question to you right now: what is the prime message Krishna was trying to give to Arjuna, or I will say into the world as well,
The world.
to the world? And during the start of that Mahabharata, or during the start of the Bhagavad Gita, there was that prime message.
The prime message is again to, let's say, let go of your, let's say, superficial world. Let go of what's not real and come to terms with what is real.
What is not real?
What is not real is the physical world which changes, which has a beginning and which has an end, like a dream. So when you have a dream, it starts at some point during the time of sleep, and then it ends somewhere. And then when you wake up, oh, it was so real what I was doing through. And then at the time of the wakeful condition, you come to terms with, well, that was just a dream, and that's all it was. Maybe my desires were inserted in there. I want to see certain things happen. Or sometimes we have a bad dream that has it's a reflection of the fears you have inside, the insecurities. So we're saying touch with reality. So Krishna is saying, be in touch with yourself. And what is the self? The Atma. I am not this body, I'm the spirit. And what does that mean? Once I know who I really am, that I'm a spirit soul, what do you do with it? We serve. We serve the world in one way, one capacity or another. But there's those who are reluctant to serve. They want to be served. In other words, play like the role of a mini god. Better to take up the position of agreeing to contributing to the world instead of taking. Remember John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So it's a little bit like that. Don't make big demands. Your commodities will come their way. You'll get what you need. But what is it that I can do to make a difference? How can I uplift, let's say, the consciousness of people? That's what is really at the baseline of Krishna consciousness.
So according to that, or according to Bhagavad Gita, what is life?
Now, what is life? Well, within the realm of yourself, the individual, again, if you get your identity right, I'm a spirit, I'm not a body, then what is my prime function? It's to serve. Sable. To serve others. And in the world of pop culture, it's like, get served. be saved. Why that? Work like a dog, work like an ass, work like a mule, and you get what you need. But to get to that point of and so-called enjoyment, which is temporary, they have to work very hard. So life is really like a breath coming from God. And we have a small role to play because there's billions, trillions of us. And we all play our role in some capacity. And then the Gita, Krishna talks about people playing roles as a spiritual director, as a visionary. That's one box, if you will. Another box he talks about is being a kshatriya, like a ruler, or being like a people mover, a people changer, the king. It could be a benevolent tyrant, if I can use that term, or a benevolent dictator. And then you have a group of people, the largest percentage of people are corporates, merchants, people who manage farms. And then the largest amount of population are those who physically work. They like to work with the body. So there's these four kind of people types that are addressed in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. So everyone fits into a slot naturally by your psychophysical nature. You fit into a slot. Comes totally organic for you.
What that four types?
Like we say, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And that again means everyone has a role to play. And what is the purpose of everyone, regardless of the box that you fit in? Sansiddhir Hari Toshan. Please God. Please the person who put this all in just some kind of foundation. And show gratitude for what you've done. And let's say, less so being disheartened because of what you don't have.
What I appreciate.
Appreciate what you have. And no need to be in overdrive or overkill with acquiescing, accumulating things. You can tell with we're talking about in marriage as well, we don't score well these days in many areas of what was traditionally meaningful. So Krishna's encouraging responsibility. Therefore, he tells Arjuna, wake up, you are a warrior, you've gone through a lot of battles already. Here's another one. Why are you so squeamish now? Why are you hesitating now? Now it's time for Dharma, to uphold Dharma. We need you now. So let's get going.
So talking about Dharma, like as a Kshatriya is about during a war times to fight.
Yep, to protect.
Yes, to protect and to fight with either. So when we are doing our Dharma, so do you think by default we are accommodating, say, karmas as well?
Well, not necessarily. If you stand for piety and righteousness, punya, then you'll be rewarded. But if everything is based on, like, okay, I belong to a nation, I'm a citizen, and we're looking on the other side of the border, so they've got gold over there. We would like to have it. So instead of shaking hands with them, so can we make some deals with you? Give us some of your gold and we'll give you some of our sugar canes, whatever. Make an exchange. But instead, we're going to be rough, we're going to be harsh, we're going to be aggressive. We're just going to go plow in there and get what we want. Instead of handshaking and making a good deal out of it. Let's see how we can both benefit from what you have. We have something you don't have, you have something we don't have. So in this way, that kind of, good like business exchange could go a long way to helping our society amongst humans to being a nice working situation. But instead, we want to be aggressive, and we feel that we can get right in there and get what we want and steal it.
Talking about karma, we all heard this phrase very common, karma its impact. Yeah. So when we are talking about karma, is that always like a bad karma, or we are also talking about the good karmas as well?
Yes, the way it works for every action that you execute or exert, there will be an equal reaction, equal and opposite reaction. It's inherent. You put some good vibrations out there, good gestures, show up by your behavior, you'll get some return. And on the other hand, if you're being very aggressive, criminal-like, and you're imposing on people's lives and making them miserable, it's going to come back to haunt me, for sure.
So the karma which we are accumulating over a period of a lifespan, so we are using that karma during that lifespan, or we are carrying forward that after that, or if there is any afterlife.
Yeah, we will get our just deserts, what we desire, what we deserve. It will come to us. It will come to haunt us in the case of bad actions. And in the case of good actions, you'll get some good results. But there has to be some patience. We don't always receive our good karma in this life. It may come in the next. That will come.
As
Like karma is, to translate, it means action. Okay? Just like, say, if I give you a whack across the face. Okay, you're going to react. Oh, is that all? I'm going to give you one back. And so there will be a reaction. Who's that? And it will be a reaction. You're not going to just, what if I came at you again? You're going to say, hey, stop this. You will react. Or every time you act, something will react.
and that is the
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And to put real simple terms.
and while we are
But I'll just give a point that karma refers to the action and the concomitant reaction. It's not just when I am doing something. There's the reaction to what I'm doing. And we have to consider to make it like a full circle reality.
talking about karma, as you said, when we are doing something, we are accumulating karma during the same time when we are not doing something.
Oh, well, right now you're incurring karma. Karma will come to you for something you've done previously. And whatever you're doing now, you are also invoking karma. So right now, what we're involved in is a kind of like informative, educational exercise, what you and I are going through right now. So to help people come to a greater point of awareness. And that's a good thing. So some good reaction will come for this podcast, and guarantee you'll get some good reaction. And because of the nature of this action, like you're not promoting entertainment that's like of the flesh. You're not providing entertainment that is it's exerting profanities with the mouth. And like nowadays, it's a little disheartening. But when we see people like stand-up comedians and everything they say and talk about is totally vulgar. You wouldn't get that kind of 30 years ago. It just is quite natural for people to be very profane and mundane instead of speaking of goodness.
Is that the effect of Kali? Or is that the effect of Kali?
Yes, Kali Yuga, which you've heard about, it's the age in which people tend to gravitate, they tend to gravitate to what we call amongst the Buddhists, tamamin. Guna is like a condition, it's like an energy. And so there's very negative energy that's stomachly. There's energy which is very much on the other side, which we can say is produce good things. There's thoughtfulness behind the mindset. And then in the middle is Rajguna, which is the negative passion. Those three energies govern our world.
Okay. As we touch base the one point which you discussed in the starting of the podcast regarding the Tikhara, right? Narthaniko. So when we are talking about Narthaloka, this is afterlife. So is there really afterlife?
Oh, yes, surely, surely. Our soul, our Atma is transcends. The body will perish, we go on. So it travels into the next existence.
Okay, and what that afterlife look like? Do we have any
Indication? Yeah, well, it's your behavior is like the blueprint for what will be the future. Let's say you're just a miserable guy, and you make people, let's say, suffer. The end result is that you'll get a reaction from that. And we'll call it karma. It will swing back. Like a boomerang, you throw it in the air. It just comes back down.
So bad karma will also follow back to afterlife us. And our karma will be dictating our afterlife dreams.
Yes, yeah, most definitely. We have to consider what you're doing today will impact your future. I think most people understand that. Let's say if you're trying to do your exams, you're a student, but you don't put any energy into the study, then you probably get because you're in the mode of ignorance, so see dumbassy. They'll not produce any good results. But if you put a lot of energy into the study, listening, paying attention, and very attentive, then you'll get some good results. It's a matter of being clear and conscious, being very attentive.
So one deep question I'm just going to ask you, just for my understanding. So sometimes this happens in our life, right? We might be doing something good to people, right? And we are doing that action without any expectation from them. And when really time hits and we are thinking about that, why this is happening to me, when even I'm very good to people, or when I'm trying to do a good karmas.
Right.
So what is the reason for that?
A reaction from the past. And a way of God testing. Are you still with me? In other words, we are always having to go through some kind of examination. And there's an expectation that we will try to pass the examination. And the purpose behind examination is to get you serious about your studies and to make you tough and to make you street smart, world smart, to be able to handle this world heavy. If everything's so easy going, like, a lawn chair on the beach with sipping a smoothie with sunglasses on, if it's just all about that, we'll just become very weak. We become very weak. So the whole point is let's do good works and we'll have it better.
So, as you said, God is trying to test us. So I'm trying to understand these two concepts for my understanding only. Karma and God's testing.
Yes.
So during the God's test, even though we are trying good, we are doing our practices, we are consistent with our spiritual practices. And during that time, if the God is trying to test us, does God try to give us the new situations, or God try to keep on pushing us the back karmas which we have accumulated over the period, or let's say lifespan of the previous lifespan?
Well, God, let's say if there's a bad reaction that's come to us, and we equate it to God's testing, I don't think there's a problem with assimilating it. I don't think there's a problem making it blind. The point is that when a challenge is coming your way, take advantage of it and say, I'm going to face up to it, I'm going to deal with it, and it'll make me stronger. And if I never test it, like say, the good thing about bad weather is that you're being tested. It's always good, and you become mush. You will have no backbone. So character is built into your persona when you accept these tests, wholeheartedly, appreciating that God is helping me to be wise, to excel. And when a person who's on the spiritual path is thinking, I'm in the kitchen, maybe I'll have my figure, and blood comes out, and I'll let it go with tap, the cold water, and wrap stuff in that. So if you just see that, it's just a token, whatever was given. For all the things I've done, I really should have my head cut off. Should be decapitated. So I'm just getting a little token of suffering because of what I have done. Because God is looking after me now. I can say that He could have treated me more roughly, but He's showing kindness. Really.
Swami, I just want you to explain what this book is about.
This is called the Saffron Path. It's definitely not Bhagavad Gita, but it's an account of my different walks across Canada, which is 4 times, the US once, Ireland, Israel, Guyana, Trinidad, the Fiji Islands, and Mauritius. And I'm saying middle walk in Syria. But that's what it is. It's a light read. It's easy, and it encourages people not only towards the walking culture, but also towards spirituality, and just being a person who's subtly in the mode of goodness.
So, in conclusion, this is about your the experience.
That's right. That's right. My name is Bhakti Marga, which means path of devotion, and my guru seemed to know somehow in the past that he gave me that name. We felt that this son of mine, he will do some bhakti on the path. So it's called Saffron Path. It's available on Amazon. It's a nice book.
Thank you very much. Swamiji, I do have last quick question, which I'm the right person question.
Okay.
And I try to ask this to each and every guest of night to diagnose. So the very first question, if you have to give one advice to your younger son so that they can fast track where you are right now, or what your learnings are throughout your lifespan, what that would one advice be?
One advice. I would say act in goodness, sattva-gun. Act in such a way that it's for others and not just yourself. Consider the we and not the me. Because if it's we, the me is in we. And if you write down we, it's like to turn the W upside down, and then it's a me. So most of me think me and not the we. So I think that what's really important, think inclusively. Think inclusively. Try to be act as if you're a member of the universal Sangha. It's not just about massaging the ego.
Second question, if you have only 24 hours of the night, so what you want to do in those 24 hours?
I would call some of my good friends and anybody who's around, anybody who comes to the door, let us go for a walk in the ravine. Let us go and under a tree, just chat there, and do it until life's like.
Thank you, everyone, for coming at the Avilash podcast and enlighten us. I will say personally to myself as well, both in the name of Krishna. And I'm eagerly looking forward for some more podcasts with you. Or looking at your vast experience of 70 men.
Wow, it's very ambitious.
I am. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
on this podcast.
Hare Krishna.
So this was the episode with the walking monk or Bhakti Marg Swami. I definitely hope you enjoyed this whole podcast and learned many things about life and karma. If you're new to Avilash podcast, I will definitely ask you guys to subscribe this channel because there are many amazing upcoming episodes are in a queue, which you will definitely like. For now, like this video as well and stay tuned. Hare Krishna.